Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tuomas Auvinen. I currently live in Japan, and for this reason, I could not be present with you guys today. Of all the seminars and events that I have missed during my time away from Finland, this is the one I really didn't want to miss. However, geography is brutal, and it will probably take a long time before we have the necessary technology that will allow us to zap in and out around the world in an instant. Hence this video today. First things first, congratulations, John, on your birthday and your vast and influential academic career. I'm proud to call myself one of your academic disciples and you my academic father. I had the privilege to be supervised by you first for a short while during my master's at the University of Helsinki in 2009, and then during my PhD between the years 2013 and 2019. After my graduation in 2019, our cooperation has continued despite the distance for the past few years. The book we've launched today is truly a testimony to the impact you have had on our common academic discipline of cultural musicology. I was truly honored to be invited to be one of the editors of this Festschrift, together with Anna-Lena, Freya, and James. I thank you for the cooperation. In addition to being one of the editors, I contributed by writing a chapter titled Relationships of Music Technology, Sound, and the Human Body, a case study on Imogen Heap's Mimu Gloves YouTube videos. The first chapter of part 3 of the book. The whole idea for this topic or theme was originally influenced by John. For many years now, we have been co-teaching the Cultural Study of Music Technology course at the University of Turku. The first time John asked me to join the course as an assistant teacher many years ago, I was looking for some good examples of contemporary use of music technology on YouTube to show to the students during the lecture. I bumped into Imogen Heap's Musical Gloves videos and suggested them to John. He thought they were excellent examples on the theme of the relationship between the human body and technology. So these examples have stayed as a part of the course ever since. At some point, I started thinking about the possibility to do some research and write an article on the topic. When Anna-Lena asked me to join the editorial team and to contribute to this Festschrift with a chapter, I saw an opportunity to write on this topic that I've been toying with for many years. The first thing I actually realized when I started this process was that surprisingly little has been written about Imogen Heap in the academic music research domain. It was unexpected because Imogen Heap, her musical activities, and especially her pioneering work with uses of music technology seemed like a perfect topic for music technology enthusiasts. Especially, there was nothing on Imogen Heap written from a music technology and culture perspective. In my chapter, I asked the following research questions. What kinds of cultural understandings, values, and meanings of the relationship between musical sound, music technology, and the human body can be derived through an analysis of Imogen Heap's YouTube videos in which she uses a wearable technology called Mimu Gloves to create music? In order to answer my research question, I asked the following sub-questions. In what ways does Imogen Heap use and verbalize the use of Mimu Gloves in her YouTube videos? And what kinds of relationships between the body, technology, and sound production are brought forward in performances and discussions through movements and gestures? To answer the research questions, I focused on the analysis of Heap's verbal depictions of the gloves and her gestures and body movements through which she produces and manipulates sounds. I aimed at broadening our understanding of the relationship between music technology, the human body, and sound production, and the kinds of cultural aspects that they entail. Epistemologically and methodologically, I drew heavily, especially from John's work on close reading or close listening of audiovisual material. Central concepts include embodiment and music technology. Music technology in this article is defined as the ways in which sounds are produced and reproduced. This broad definition then also includes the human body. So as a premise, the human body is also a music technology. This understanding breaks down the artificial dichotomy between the natural body and the artificial technology. Embodiment in this article refers to the tangible or visible forms of ideas or a movement-based mental schemata. In other words, embodiment refers to some incorporeal entity, such as an idea of the mind becoming materialized. Imogen Heap, born 1977, is a British Grammy-nominated singer-songwriter, electronic music artist, and multi-instrumentalist. In the public eye, Imogen Heap is often viewed as a technological pioneer and an innovator. Therefore, it seems, earlier scholarly research on Heap often tends to touch upon her use of technology. The musical gloves, or the MIMU gloves, are a wearable technology that Imogen Heap uses to wirelessly engage with her computer software and technology to create music.
I'm Imogen Heap and I'm a musician. More recently, I've been developing these beautiful gloves that help me gesturally interact with my computer so that I can make music on the move, in the flow, and more humanly, more naturally engage with my computer software and technology. So here they are. This is the latest one. This is an earlier one, and these are many other iterations.
So let's get to the analysis. In the video you just saw, he brings up a longing to make music more humanly and naturally, more in the flow. This already reveals an important value he puts on making music. By expressing this wish for a more natural way to make music, she makes a distinction between natural and unnatural. As we can see here, for Heap, the distinction between the natural and the less natural, however, does not lie between unnatural technology and the natural human body. Quite the contrary. For Heap, the wearable technology, which merges the human body more tightly with the sound production technology than, for example, computers and the digital software it nests, increases the naturalness of the music-making process. For Heap, the distinction between the natural and the less natural or unnatural seems to lie in the different kinds of movements and gestures that music technology allows for in the production and manipulation of digital sounds. For Heap, making music on the move in the flow is more natural than sitting still in front of a computer screen or playing keyboards to engage her computer software and technology. In a CNN interview, Heap explains, "In the past, the only way that I could interact with the computer to make music was by using a mouse and a keyboard, and this is very two-dimensional. I wanted to be able to have something which was directly from the brain, to quickly be able to manipulate sound just by intuitive gestures." What is interesting here is the importance he puts on intuitiveness as a value. The music-making process for Heap seems not to be so much an intellectual process, but more of an intuitive one. Additionally, Heap addresses the body-mind dichotomy. The desire to embody musical ideas directly from the brain points at a desire to do away with the separation between the musical body and the musical mind. In the same interview, Heap uses sculpting as a metaphor. Movement for me is key. I have a body and I have a mind, and in my mind I have music. And it's a very shapely, sculptural thing that's going on. With the gloves, I have almost got infinite mobility, and so many different ways that different actions can cross over each other and therefore make something I wouldn't have thought of. I can almost jam with myself. So movement and playing with music, with my hands almost like a potter, is now becoming a reality with these gloves that I've been developing with my team. However, the metaphor of sculpting suggests materiality or physicality as another core value. Making music is like pottery, as the MIMU gloves provide a way to make music very concretely. making the process embodied and visible to the audience as well. Another value of note is infinite mobility, which yields new possibilities of digitally produced sound. Halfway through the video, in which Heap introduces the musical gloves technology, she makes a gesture joining all the fingers in her right hand together and rolling her hand left and right, as if grabbing and moving a knob on a mixer to manipulate sound. She describes it as filtering the sound and kind of pitch bending it, which creates an interesting aspect into the discussion of technological determinism versus voluntarism. Heap herself describes in the beginning of the video how she's been developing the gloves. In other words, she has had influence over what kinds of gestures would be created to manipulate a sound and the way that it would be manipulated. She could have chosen any gesture to manipulate the filter effect, yet she chose one that looks very much like someone turning a filter knob on a mixing console.
Here, filtering the sound and kind of pitch bending it.
This serves an example of how the previous technological practices might influence the practices applied to new technologies. Heap selected this exact gesture to embody a filter manipulation sound because of the fact that she has used a similar gesture when manipulating filter effects on an older piece of technology, most likely a mixing console. Another example regarding the existing technological practices influencing new technological practices can be found in the same video. After Heap has introduced the technology and its functions to the camera, the video cuts to a live performance. In this performance, Heap plays drums that sound very much like the toms of a drum set. The gesture by which he produces drum sounds looks exactly like a conventional drumming gesture. Palms closed into fists as if holding a drumstick. Hands moving up and down as if hitting the membranes of drums. The movements look like air drumming, playing the drums without an actual drum set. Only this time, due to the musical gloves, the movements result in actual drumming sounds projected to the audience. Again, the previous conventions of drumming might be the reason for the gesture to look the same as conventional drumming. Also, in a live performance situation, Heap's drumming gesture also fulfill the expectations of the audience, even explain sounds to them. If she engages in movements and gestures that do not look like drumming, when the movements produce drum sounds, the audience might feel off by the gestures not conventionally connected to the sound of drums, nor recognize them as such in the first place. From this perspective, the audience's expectations might explain the way in which the old technological conventions of how a certain sound should be embodied influence the new technological practices in a somewhat deterministic manner. Much of the appeal of the Mimu gloves is strongly connected to the visual aspects of live performance. The desire to make sound production more natural can also be understood as a reflection of the wish for a stronger embodiment of sound not only for herself, but also for the audience she's performing for. Kim and Seifert note that some interfaces by using interactive music systems have the paradoxical effect of disembodiment of the musical body. Heap's discussion of the problems she encountered with the previously used technologies can be understood as a reflection of this phenomenon.
So then this problem was, how do I kind of do this on the move without having like a keyboard? And a lot of the things that, I want to do expressively, like, add a huge reverb to something. If you had this thing, which is, I butchered it by adding little straps on it so I could be wireless and add a little wireless MIDI thing onto it. Sorry. Oh, that's better. Stop it. Okay. So this, for instance, if I wanted to bring up the reverb, what I'd have to do is I'd have to do that. Okay, that's not very exciting, is it? So if I have that like that, you can't even see what I'm doing. So I could be doing my email for all you know. So this is kind of, but this thing, like all these things that are these kind of 50% of the show that gets hidden. Oh, sorry. Okay. Ugh. Wait a minute. I want to get back to the demo mode. Okay. This is solo, by the way. Solo. So, what was I saying? I got all carried away. I can't remember what I was saying. Anyway, so I basically was wondering how to make it fluid on the stage without having these kinds of things. Oh yeah, that's what I was saying. So that if that was reverb, you know, I could do the gesture like this, and you could hear the reverb, or I could kind of move my arms to left and to the right, and you would see and hear the sound kind of. You would almost see it kind of moving around the stage. It's much more interesting than kind of doing that, you know, turning a pot around.
In other words, the technology can be understood as an extension of her theatrical propensities. So you could say the desire to use the musical gloves helps Heap to embody the sounds she produces during a live performance, both for herself and for the audience in a much more fundamental way compared to the previously used technologies. For Heap, the musical gloves help her embody sound on stage in a way that makes each gesture a clear sign of a change in the sounds she produces. In conclusion, the close reading of YouTube videos in which Imogen Heap uses the musical gloves can provide new perspectives in our understanding between natural and unnatural or artificial. The distinction does not necessarily lie between the human body, the natural, and electronic or digital technology, the unnatural, but between the ways in which these different technologies interact, how they are combined, and how they are used. Compared to earlier technologies, the Mimo gloves offer Heap an enhanced freedom of movement and a more natural and physical way of embodying sounds overall, as it offers the possibility to control and embody a theoretically infinite number of sounds directly through body movements and gestures without having to touch or grab a device. The liberating aspects of the musical gloves technology expands the visual possibilities of a live performance. Heap has the capacity to visually embody live sound manipulation, which would look very unimpressive when produced directly on mixing consoles or computer screens instead of utilizing these gloves. However, the liberating aspects offered by the musical gloves are balanced out by the self-imposed limitations of gestures that are familiar from earlier technological practices. This is demonstrated by Heap's air drumming gestures and filter knob manipulations. On the other hand, this might reflect a degree of technological determinism, or rather, the determinism of technological practices. Practices related to the embodiment of sound on an earlier piece of technology influence the way in which the same sound is embodied on a new piece of technology, the musical gloves, or it can reflect the expectations of the audience. Certain sounds look a certain way. I would thank my two peer reviewers for the insightful comments and suggestions regarding this article. With this presentation, I want to once more congratulate you, John, and express my gratitude to you for all your support and influence on so many levels. May your work continue to influence new generations of musicologists. Thank you.